Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hi, I'm Cornell. I want to thank Joyce and the committee for asking me to come and speak down here today. It's astonishing and remarkable. When we begin this journey of recovery, where we're taken, and the opportunities that present themselves to us is just something I could never have predicted. I always think I know exactly what's going to happen. And whenever I look back, I say I never knew that was going to happen. And it's just a remarkable, consistent practice in my life, and I'm just so grateful that you asked me to come, and so grateful to be here and to share my story. And I've heard amazing stories here tonight. Over the last couple of days, and they've been truly inspirational to me. And I'm just so grateful to be here. I never know what I'm going to say when I come up to one of these podiums. I never plan what I'm going to say, and I just trust, and even though it's frightening, I just trust that whatever's supposed to come out of my mouth will come out of my mouth, and that's a huge step forward for me to trust what's ever going to be there. And the thing I remind myself is it's a good day to be in a meeting of recovery. It's a good day to be at a meeting. It's a good day to be in a fellowship that can help me recover from this seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. It's a good day to be around people who understand the language that I speak and who understand the process of spiritual evolution. That's a wonderful place for me to be, because I need to be here. Because when I step outside the flock, or I get out of the center of the flock, as I heard a couple nights ago, I'm picked off. I'm picked off by my own mind. And so what I like to do is I trust that as I'm at one of these gatherings, that the message that is for me to understand about what I'm doing here comes to me through the people that I meet and the experiences that I have as I'm here. So today, what I know about and I say often in meetings, I'm Cornell and I have alcoholism, because I may not have we understand alcoholism as a twofold disease, a physical allergy coupled with a mental obsession. I may not have the physical allergy, but I sure do have the obsessions of the mind. And I learn in these rooms things that I've never understood about myself before, about what's wrong with me and about why I behave, act, and believe in the way that I do. And I heard a little phrase, and I go to a lot of AA meetings. And I heard a phrase in one AA meeting that told me that alcoholism is a living mind-powered disease. It is alive and well and functioning and needs to be treated in the day that I'm in. And that's an interesting little phrase. When I heard it at first, I didn't quite know what it meant. But it tells me certain qualities about the thing that I'm up against. First of all, it tells me that it's living. My first sponsor, 35 years in AA, 10 years in Al-Anon, tells me it's alcoholism, not alcoholism. So it's a living mind-powered disease. It's alive. And it's well, I'm also told in this phrase. So I know that it's okay. I know that it's doing its job. I know that it's functioning in the way that it's supposed to be functioning. It is functioning in the day that I'm in. It's functioning. So it's a process going on in my mind. It's alive, it's well, it's functioning. And it affects the way I look at people, places, things, and situations in the day that I'm in. So I'm told something about what alcoholism does. It affects the way I see people, places, things, and situations in the day that I'm in. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, right here, right now. Alcoholism is a living, mind-powered function that affects the way I look at people, places, things, and situations in the day that I'm in. So I know that it distorts my perception of reality. I was in the gym today, this morning, wondering what I was going to say. And I was on the machine, one of those elliptical machines. And I go to the gym all the time. I'm originally from New York. I'm in Los Angeles now. How much time do I have, by the way? I just wanted to make sure. Oh, boy. I don't need that much time. Definitely don't need that much time. So I was in the gym today, and I go to the gym all the time in Los Angeles, and you know, the gym, those elliptical machines, they go from 1 to 20, and you can set the resistance depending on, you know, what you're able to tolerate. So I was in the gym today, and I had gone yesterday, and I put it up to, you know, 8 to begin with, and I'm going, and it's going well. Put it up to 12, it's going okay. I'm not feeling much of a difference. I'm putting it up to 15, it's okay. And I put it all the way up to 20, and it's going pretty good. And I'm feeling pretty good about myself, and I'm like, I must be in pretty good shape. And I go back, but my first thought was, this machine might be broken. And it turns out the machine wasn't broken. It turns out, you know, that I was in as good a shape as I perceived myself to be in at that moment. And then I went back today, and the same thing happened. The same process. I went through the same process that started off slow, built it up. Wow, I'm in really, really wonderful condition. I was very proud of myself. I looked back into the mirror, and I saw my butt. And the thought went through my mind, my butt's not big enough. It's not, and I'm thinking my butt's too small. I'm a 230-pound man of African-American descent. If I think my butt is too small, I've got a serious distortion of reality going on. So no problem with the size of my butt, but I'm thinking, oh, I need to do more squats. So there's that, right? A living mind power disease that affects the way I look at people, places, things, and situations in the day that I'm in. And then I'm thinking, wow, this is, you know, I wish this machine would challenge me more, because I've maxed out. And I said to myself, let me see if this goes up any higher. And I pressed it, and lo and behold, that machine goes up to 100. There are 80 more degrees of exertion above the 20 that I thought I'd mastered. So my first thought was, well, they certainly made that leap really big, and because I put it up to 30, and I was going at 30, and I was like, they made that leap between 20 and 30 a little too hard. It doesn't accord, it doesn't align with my perception of my physical fitness, so I'm going to put it back down to 20, where I can feel as physically fit as I thought I was. And so it's just an amazing thing that right there, right then, right now, I can see in the gym downstairs that my perception of reality is distorted. And that not only is it distorted, but that I will create a story around the circumstances that I think are real to fit into the identity that I think the character that I think I am. And even rather than admitting that it was too hard at 30, I wanted to go back down to 20 to be who I thought I was. And so it's kind of, and it said to me, the steps are kind of like that. Spiritual recovery is kind of like that. I come in here and I start out with a certain character. And I think I get a little bit of information, a little bit of knowledge, and a little bit of ability. And I think I can fly, and I think I can go further. But then as soon as another situation comes up that challenges me, I realize there's 80 more degrees for me to travel. There's a lot more for me to go for. I can always continue to enlarge in my spiritual life, as I hear in the books. And so that happened. And then I saw a wonderful speaker. He's here tonight. I saw a wonderful speaker last night, John, in the AA opening meeting. And, I was on the elevator coming down. I have my dog with me, my dog, Sweetie. And she's a rescue dog from the hood in Los Angeles. And I brought her down here with me. And John said to me, was that a red nose? Asked me what kind of dog she was, and I thought she was a pit bull. She said, no, that's a red-nosed pit bull. I said, really? She's a red-nosed pit bull. And all of a sudden, I was very happy that I had a red-nosed pit bull. And I was really happy that she was something other than just a mutt. And And I was really excited to have a red, and I went upstairs and I called my friend and I said, Sweetie is a red-nosed pit bull. Can you believe that? And then so prestige and came upon me, and I thought I was the owner of quite a special dog. And she is a special dog. I took her into the elevator to go back down and take her out. Somebody said, "Does that thing bite?" I thought to myself, that's my red-nosed pit bull. Can't call it a thing and ask me if it bites. She's sweet as day. And then after that, I came back upstairs and I looked on the internet. I said, I want to see what red-nosed pit bulls look like. And I saw pictures of dogs that looked just like Sweetie. And then I saw a picture of a dog that was for sale, a red-nosed pit bull for $100. And then I saw a picture of a red-nosed pit bull, 2 years old, which is a little younger than my dog, for sale for $900. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe I could sell my Sweetie. I didn't know she was valuable now. So all of a sudden it went from being an object to something that who I loved and had prestige around to wanting to make a profit off of her. So there was that. There's the way my mind gets affected by money, property, and prestige, right? Influenced by the disease of alcoholism, mind-powered, influenced the way I look at people, places, things, and situations in the day that I'm in. So, the first day I got here, I love what happens here because it begins to structure in my mind why I'm here. Now, before my mom passed away, about 3.5 years ago, she was in the hospital. And this story that this woman that I met here reminded me of her, the woman I met on the first day that I was here. She reminded me, my mother was in the hospital, and I shared this story last night at dinner. And she was dying of cancer. And my mother had a deep faith. She never went to church, but she worked, she was a kitchen worker. And she washed dishes for about 30 years. And she had a chapel she worked in the Good Samaritan Hospital and Nursing Home, so there was a chapel in there where she would go in and pray every day. And as my mother was dying, she had such an incredible peace about her that the doctors wouldn't accept it. They wouldn't accept how peaceful she was. And so they came to me and they said, Cornell, we want to put your mother on antidepressants because we don't believe she's in reality about her condition, that she's dying. I went to my mom. I said, Mom, they want to put you on antidepressants. She called the doctors in and she said, listen, what do you want me to do? She goes, I know what's happening. I see what's going to be the result. I could tear out my hair and break down and cry, but I accept what's happening, and it is what it is. That kind of peace was remarkable to me. That level of acceptance was remarkable to me. It even confounded the medical establishment. And then when I came in here, I met a woman. The first day I got here, Thursday night, I registered and I went back down by the couches, and I sat down on the couch. I was charging my phone. This woman sat down next to me. And when she came up and said, can I sit down next to you? And I said, yeah, sit down. And she was, I found out she was about 70 years old. And I said, oh, are you here for the conference? And she said, no, I'm not here for the conference. I'm here to play bridge. But I'm here every time this conference is here. Apparently there's a bridge conference. Every time we have this meeting here, there's a bridge conference. And I said, oh, I'm here for the Al-Anon conference. She goes, oh, yes. My father was an alcoholic. I said, oh, have you ever tried Al-Anon? She said, no, I haven't. I said, and then she went, she goes, but I go to church every day. Not every day. She goes, I pray every day, and I go to church. And I know that the answer to all my problems comes from my connection and my belief in God and turning it over to Him every single day. So I thought it was a wonderful coincidence that here was a woman sat down next to me for a bridge convention who practices in many ways the same things that I have learned to practice in these programs on a daily basis. So I want to read something because the solution is everywhere. The solution is everywhere. In the big book it says, listen to what religious people have to say. They have a lot of information, and a lot of times they're right. And so I look everywhere to find information. I look everywhere to find inspiration. But I want to read something. This book's called First Steps, Al-Anon, 35 Years of Beginnings. And I want to read something that I have found very, very useful in my own recovery. It's written by Lois and Ann, so our founders. And I love the history of Al-Anon. I love to learn about, I didn't know that for 17 years, the women of, as I began reading about the history, that the women are the wives of the alcoholics would go to meetings for 17 years, and they worked the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And for 17 years, this fellowship of Al-Anon was nurtured within the rooms of AA, even given great support by Bill W. when the time came to that they needed the support. And it reminds me that these two fellowships, as I'm learning about it, grew up together and are not about being. Sometimes I've sensed in the room sometimes that there's an animosity sometimes, and we make fun of each other, and that's useful. But I don't ever want to forget that this is a family disease. And it's a family solution. And then we don't come here to criticize and dominate, nag, scold, and complain. We don't come here to judge and blame. I come here to learn how to, and I get a lot more gifts than simply learning how to repair my relationships with people. I recover a lot more than that as well. But I want to remember that that's why I'm here, that it's a community, and my goal is to create unity within that community by the working of the program. And so I want to read this thing by Lois and Ann, and she says it's titled Our Bonus. Let everyone sweep in front of his door, and the whole world will be clean. That wasn't written about family groups and family groupers. That wasn't written about family groups, and family groupers don't aim to clean up the entire world. Most of us came to grief just by trying to take in too much territory. Either we tried running things with too high a hand, weighed ourselves down unnecessarily by assuming guilt for another's drinking, tried too hard to stop it, or we soothed deeply hurt feelings with luxurious baths of self-pity. None of it good. In our own way, though not as obviously, we were just as excessive as our compulsive drinkers. Indulgence in hot anger, violent reproach, neurotic frustration, our attempt to retreat as completely as possible from the world in order to avoid embarrassment or shame was exactly as uncontrolled as our partner's drinking. Whether we acknowledged it or not, ours was a disease too, a mental disorder we'd let ourselves fall into, just as our alcoholics knew they had a deadly disease, yet continued to take chances with it. But through the 12 steps, we are learning, or have learned, just to sweep our own doorways. The inventory we now take is our own. We can find enough when we honestly look for it within ourselves to keep us busy sweeping only our own dooryards. Over the years, we have accumulated enough trash, enough grime and dinginess, and an unhealthy aloofness from life, so that we need only concentrate on ourselves. That's our job, and it's a big, challenging one. With the 12 steps and the whole program to use as our broom, we can make the dooryards immaculate. We can bring back sparkle to tired lives, restore hope to beaten creatures who so shortly before thought themselves better dead. We can live again as we were meant to live, and sweeping only before our own doors, we can reap the extra reward, share in the bonus of knowing that we are helping to make the whole world clean. That deserves a... That's our founders. And that to me is a beautiful testament to the power of the 12 steps. It's a beautiful testament to the power of the idea that there's one spiritual malady and many manifestations of that spiritual malady, and that I have one of them. I have more than one of them, but I have one of them for this meeting. I often hope that there's going to be some day when I walk into a room of recovery and I don't identify with the condition that's being discussed in that meeting. One of those days is going to happen. But I want to talk about a little bit about my story, about how I came here. Thank you. About what brought me into the rooms of Al-Anon, about what I've learned about why I'm here, about what I've learned about what to do about it. I'm a great believer in this program of recovery. I'm a great believer in the power, and I'm a great believer in the awareness that I've gained that's given me an ability to accept the message and accept the solution. So I needed to learn a little bit about the process that I've been through. I needed to learn a little bit about the ideas, attitudes, and emotions that brought me into these rooms so that I could be introduced to a new set of ideas, attitudes, and emotions that would guide me out of the chaos with which I walked into these rooms. And that, to me, has to do with the creation of a character. You know, I used to hear this a lot when I first started going to AA meetings, that we're here to build a new character. I didn't really quite know what that meant. I wanted to build a new character, but I didn't quite know what that meant. So I'm here to build a new character. So what's the old character that I'm trying to rebuild? So let me tell you a little bit about how my old character got formed. I always say this, I was born interracial in 1967, long before it was presidentially fashionable. So the turbulence of the 60s, and my mother was white and my father was black. They both came from working class families. Each of those families themselves were riddled with disease and alcoholism and all forms of crime and neglect and abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, addiction, alcohol abuse. And out of that popped me and my sister. And for the first 31 years of my life, I'm 46 years old now, for the first 31 years of my life, I was not allowed to, I was not allowed to see my white family, and I was not allowed to see my black family. The disease, however it combined with race and issues of class and all that stuff, the disease of untreated trauma and untreated addiction had wounded my family in such a way that it fractured it right to the core. It fractured it to the point where we weren't allowed to see our cousins. We weren't allowed to know our uncles and our aunts. We weren't allowed to step on their front lawn. We weren't allowed to call them on the phone. And thank God things have changed so much, and we've come so far as a nation, and we've come so far in our awareness of our common origins and our common humanity. And I'm really grateful about that. But it gives you it gives you some sense of the place in which I emerged from. A father who was alcoholic, a father who was violent, a father who was an attempted murderer, a father who tried to kill my mother, a father who beat me, a father who humiliated my sister, a father who was a sex addict and a drug addict and an alcoholic. I never knew my father a day sober in his life. A father who would invite his sister to come to our house and she would turn tricks as a prostitute out of our home when I was a child. A father who would steal our money, would steal our welfare money, would steal it and gamble and lose it. A father who would come close to destroying all our lives. A father who left me one day when he decided to leave us more terrified than I've ever been in my life. And a terror which has stayed deeply with me for the rest of my life, and for which I am grateful I have this program of recovery to begin to be released from, to have some kind of freedom from. But I tell that story not because it's just so I understand, not to evoke self-pity or to evoke empathy, but I tell it because I think it's so important that I know. I think it's so important that I'm aware. I think it's so important that I have a cognizance of the violence that I came from. Right? And the deep impact that violence had upon me, and the deep impact that violence had upon my family system, and the deep impact that violence had upon our capacity to even see what was wrong with us, because we couldn't. I was talking to somebody at dinner last night, and we were sharing this story that we both do not remember our childhoods. I have about 4, 5, 6 memories of childhood before the age of 10 or 11. The rest of it's pretty much gone. The rest of it's pretty much out of my consciousness. And so I want to be very aware that this is what happened to me, that I had a character that got built in the insanity of alcoholism, and that I adapted to those conditions of alcoholism in order to survive, and that those survival mechanisms, those survival traits are very identifiable, and they're identifiable because they are the symptoms that I hear in the stories of the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, in the stories of the rooms of Al-Anon, that help me put together the pieces of my life and the symptoms of my disease so that I can recognize what I've been up against all this time. Very, very powerful stuff that we share with each other, because it's a real thing that I'm up against. It's a real power that's within me, and it's a real power that's got identifiable characteristics. Now, we can name what some of those characteristics are. We talk about it in our literature. We talk about self-loathing, self-pity, guilt and shame and blame. We talk about the things that we do. We dominate, nag, scold, and complain. We people please as a form of control. We do all these different things because I'm driven unconsciously by a power within me that's rooted in the insanity of alcoholism, that's rooted in the insanity of unrecovered and untreated alcoholism, that's trying the best that I can try in the day that I'm in, to be okay, to be comfortable, to deal with the disturbance that's inside of me. I didn't know how to get rid of that disturbance in any other way except through self-will before I came into these rooms. Had no understanding that there was a method or a methodology or a philosophy or a practice that I could employ in my life to get me out of being enmeshed and entangled in situations that were causing wreckage for me and others. I had no idea that that was possible. And so I did cause wreckage for myself and others. People ask me, how did you come into these rooms? Well, I don't want to say that I was a stalker in my relationships. But I was following a dear friend into the rooms of Al-Anon. And so I stalked my way into the rooms of Al-Anon. I said to myself, what's she up to now? What's she doing now? What's she going to say about me? And so I snuck around the rooms of Al-Anon to find out what she was doing, because she had broken up with me. And I'd gone back, and I tried to get her back. And I got on my knees in the middle of the street, and I was weeping, and I was crying, and I was gut-wrenching in my tears, and I was begging her to take me back. And I was suicidal. You see, in the literature it says we are under the power of under the sway of a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. It doesn't say it's actually hopeless. It just says it's seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. When I don't know that there's a way out of this, I have a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, and I will do anything that I know how to do to get that disturbance out of me. If it means I have to go to lengths of demoralizing humiliation, as the literature tells us, I will do that. I will get on my knees in the middle of a street and beg someone not to leave me, beg someone to stay with me, beg someone not to walk away. And so I found myself in the rooms of Al-Anon, rooting out this person who had left me.
To obtain additional copies, receive a free catalog of AA and Al-Anon talks, or to find out about our tape and CD of the Month Club, call Encore Audio Archives at 1-800-878-1308, or visit our website at www.12steptapes.com.
And that wasn't my first experience of stalking or looking into or being absolutely committed to a woman that I was with. So committed that I was interested in everything that was in her journal and on her computer and in her cell phone and all the conversations she was having, all the places she was going, all the people she was seeing, and what time she was coming from her house and what time she was leaving, what time she was coming home. Right? These insanities that I have engaged in, these behaviors that I've engaged in, are the things that I did because of the best thing I knew how to do. The fears that were driving me were unknown to me yet. The origins of them, the causes and conditions of them were unknown to me at the time, so I was just doing the best that I could do. Now, I'm told that in the late stages of alcoholism, or as it manifests in the Al-Anon rooms, that the difference between the physical, mental, spiritual, emotional appearance of the alcoholic and the Al-Anon is almost indistinguishable. Before I got into the rooms of Al-Anon, I hadn't been to the dentist for 21 years. I went to the dentist, I had one cavity. Dentist said, "You have good genes." And I was very happy that I had one cavity. I had to have one root canal. But in the end stages of this disease, what I get to see about myself is that I become just as broken and torn down, tore up from the floor up, as they say, as any addict or alcoholic. This disease has brought me to the gates of death and insanity. I've tried to kill myself several times. I've been institutionalized in a psychiatric ward. I remember when I was in the psychiatric ward, I thought, these people are crazy. Like, what am I doing here? And I always like to say, I no longer think I'm in the psychiatric ward unless I'm still in there and I'm imagining all of you. I don't think I am. I think I'm free from it. But I share this story and I share the things and the behaviors that I engage in because I think it's important for me to know and for me to express as an Al-Anon, as this side of the Al-Anon equation of alcoholism, that this disease does warp our minds and distort us, and that the pains and the struggles and the violence and the trauma and the untreated addictions that we go through, that I went through, shaped me in a very particular way. That it was inevitable that I would grow up with this emptiness and this hole inside of me. It was inevitable that I would look outside myself to people, places, things, situations, money, property, and prestige to fill those things. It was inevitable that I would develop a merciless obsession to manage and control people, places, things, and situations so that I'd feel okay. It was inevitable that these things were going to happen. I had no say in the matter. I had no say in determining whether I'd behave in that way or not, and I had no idea that that's what was going on. I had no idea there was a real power in me that spoke to me in my own voice, in my own mind, and told me to do the things that I did. Told me that it was okay. Told me that not only was it okay, but that it was necessary for me to do the things that I did, to violate the boundaries of the people that I violated, because I was doing it fully believing that unless I did that, I was going to die. Something was going to happen to me. I was actually going to die. And I don't want to exaggerate this or dramatize it, but I think it's important for me to know that the power of that terror that drives that compulsive behavior, that drives that behavior that leads to wreckage, that's part of the character that I bring into these rooms, that terror is real. That terror is deep. That terror is profound. That terror is such a power within me that it will cause me to do and to say anything. I read pages 60 to 63 often in the Big Book. I'm a Big Book Al-Anon, and I see myself reflected there all the time. I have no doubt that I'm the actor trying to control the show, right? And I engage in every kind of behavior and every kind of attitude that I can to get my way. I engage in every kind of practice, every kind of solution to get my way. And my way is simply means that I'm trying to do something to relieve disturbance inside because I don't know how to relieve it any other way. And then I read in the 10th step in the AA 12 and 12, and it says, whenever I'm disturbed, no matter what the cause, there's something wrong with me. It's the spiritual axiom that I learn in these rooms. Whenever I'm disturbed, no matter what the cause, there's something wrong with me, no matter what the cause. Because when I get disturbed, I get upset. When I get upset, I go into self-will. When I go into self-will, I get separated from a power greater than myself. When I get separated from a power greater than myself, I'm going to cause wreckage for me or somebody else. It is that simple for me today. That when I'm disturbed, I'm upset and there's something wrong with me because I got a disease. I have what Lois described to me as a mental disorder. There's something truly wrong with me. And so, thank God, there's an awareness that's been developed within me about how this came to be.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
So that I know that I'm not just compulsively stalking or looking in journals or wondering what's happening or checking up on the alcoholic or worrying about my finances, my romances, my body, my life, my career, the wreckage of my past, the wreckage of my future. I'm not worrying about all of these things for no reason. And I think it's important for me to know that because I came by this condition through honest means. And it's important for me to know that my family came by the same dynamics through honest means. You know, I said this the last time I spoke at a convention that my father was a good man. You know, and I heard somebody talk about their father the other night. My father was a good man. My mother was a good woman. She suffered from untreated alcoholism, untreated sexual abuse, untreated trauma. My father suffered from very many of the same things. And the only thing they could communicate to me was the ways in which they stemmed the disturbance within them. Right? So it's very clear to me that I came into this room in a hopeless state of mind and body Because I'm an Al-Anon of the hopeless variety. You know, I heard somebody say the other day they're an alcoholic of the hopeless variety, but I'm an Al-Anon of the hopeless variety because I will go to those places of real self-damage in order to relieve what's inside of me. But it's so wonderful to know and so liberating to know that there really is something wrong with me, that I really do need to manage and control in order to feel okay. And so then I get a whole awareness of who I am formed under the disease of untreated alcoholism. And then I realize there's a whole self that comes along with that, a whole identity that comes along with that, a whole set of solutions that comes along with that. I begin to think of myself as the proper power for my life. I begin to think of myself as the proper creator of the solutions of my life. I begin to look to self all the time and look to my mind all the time to find out what I need to do. And what I need to do has never really been helpful for me. I've gone, and I shared this last time, I've gone to some of the finest institutions, educationally speaking, this land has to offer. And I couldn't stay in any one of them. You know, because I always had a mind that was disturbed. I always had a mind that was restless, irritable, and discontent. I always had a mind that was looking for something else. I always had a mind that needed to be someplace else. I always had a mind that was preoccupied. And what it was preoccupied by was what somebody else was doing. And it got preoccupied to such an extent that it would not allow me to focus on my own life and do the things that I needed to do to allow my life to grow. And this is the power of the program, to get into my mind. And I love Bill's story in the big book. Because what I see in Bill's story in the big book is how much it takes to get a chink in the pride and in the ego of the alcoholic mind. Right? It takes that much suffering and tragedy and crisis and chaos and loss to get a chink in the pride of the ego and a chink in the ego and the pride of my alcoholic mind. Right? Because I have the same kind of mind. And what I get to see, especially from Bill's story, is that it takes so much because the defenses are so powerful, because the suffering is so great, because the need to be relieved of the disturbance is so profound, that I'll go to any lengths. Right? My disease, myself, my character built in the insanity of alcoholism will go to any lengths to relieve the disturbance. No mistake that to recover, I must be willing to go to any lengths in recovery, because I have a disease that will go to any lengths in my disturbance to relieve what's wrong with me through a mind that comes up with its own solutions. Solutions rooted in insanity. Solutions rooted in delusion. Solutions rooted in the lack of... My first sponsor said to me, Cornell, reality is your friend. Reality is your friend. And it is my friend today, because I've begun to wake up to see what's wrong with me. And what's beautiful about it is that I always like to share the step I'm currently working on. And I've worked the steps, and I'm currently working on the 7th step again. And what's amazing about the 7th step, and we hear this all throughout our literature, and I think it's important for me at this moment to realize this, that it's all about humility, the 7th step. Humbly asking him to remove our shortcomings. The 10th step talks about humility. All throughout our literature, we hear that the foundations of the program is on the foundation of humility. I didn't know what humility was when I first came into these rooms. I didn't know what the concept actually meant. I always thought it was a kind of, oh, I'm not really that good. You know, I thought it was self-effacement, right? I thought it was about me not accepting the recognition that I thought I deserved, but didn't want to let you know that I thought I deserved it. I learned about humility in this room, and it becomes a completely different experience and a completely different concept for me. And what I learned about humility is that for me, the definition of humility is entire dependence upon God. Entire dependence upon God. And as I understand the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous in my life, they are designed to remove those obstacles that are inside of me, those obstacles of thought and feeling and emotion, those obstacles of attitudes, ideas, and beliefs that prevent me from recognizing my entire dependence upon God. That's what they're designed for, bit by bit, to make me aware that all these inner obstacles, in the big book they call them the bedevilments, that plague me. And they plague us in the same way. If you read that chapter, it's kind of the same thing. It talks about deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. It may be obscured by pomp, circumstance, or worship of other things, but it's there, right? It's there, deep down in every man, woman, and child, the fundamental idea of God. And what I learn about when I come into these rooms is that I've got all these obstacles inside of me that prevent my awareness, that prevent my capacity to feel that conscious connection to my God. And I can say that today in a way that I couldn't say it before. To God, to my God, to the God of my own understanding. And that's a very powerful thing for me to say today, because it affirms within my life that a consciousness has developed that allows me to recognize that there is a power greater than me, that can restore me to sanity, that does care about my life, that will take care of me. And that's the relationship I need to get right. And that humility teaches me that certain aspects of my character have to change in order for me to invite this power into my life on a continuing basis, in order to invite this power into my life in all my affairs, in order to apply the principles of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous in all my affairs at all times. That there's ideas about my relationships, my motives, and my consciousness that need to expand and become, that I need to become more aware of. So I have to realize that my relationship is not to my girlfriend first. My relationship is not to my job first, my employer first. My relationship is not to money, property, and prestige first. My relationship is not to people, places, things, and situations first. My relationship, if I'm entirely dependent upon God, is to God first, and to applying those principles in all my affairs first, to applying those principles on a daily basis first, to applying those principles when I get tangled up first, to pause and invite that in first. That's got to come first for me today, because if that doesn't come first, the worst comes out of my mind. The worst solutions come from the old character built in the insanity of alcoholism. And I'm going to apply those solutions if I don't have something else to go to. I love that this is a program of practical application, right? So I don't have to think about what compassion means. I don't have to think I'm going to sit on a mountaintop and be a compassionate person. What I can do is I can say, well, what does that look like? What might that look like in this situation? Oh, I can practice restraint of pen and tongue right now. I can practice forgiveness. I can practice acceptance. I can practice tolerance. I can practice patience. I have practical things that I can practice in my life in the day that I'm in that can convince me that my well-being is not determined by a person, a place, a thing, or a situation. Because when I practice those principles and they bring about conditions like compassion, and I practice those principles between me and another person, the best thing seems to result for all involved. The best thing seems to come out. Things that I would not have thought of in my own mind. Things that I would not have dreamt up of. Solutions that I could not come up with because my solutions come from a broken brain, come from a warped mind, and they're no good. I have to let go of all of my old ideas, absolutely. And I may feel like it says in the big book, the hole in the donut, but it's okay. I have to lose myself to gain everything. I have to let go of those ideas to gain everything. And I don't realize that at first because I want to hang on. And I want to try out, and I want to go back to my old solutions over and over and over again. But as soon as I self-will, it says in the text, slams shut the door, the key of willingness will pick it back up again. So coming back to the meetings, coming back to the program, talking to my sponsor, reading the literature, all of this helps me to remain continually willing to keep going for more and more, to keep the key in the lock, to keep the key in the lock and open up the door, to keep my willingness alive. So I think it's a wonderful testament to me that there is a power greater than myself, and that I've seen it work in my life, and that there are ways in which I can apply this power in my life. And for those times when I am tangled up, I practice a lot of the things that get practiced in the big book. I pause when agitated and doubtful, and I ask for guidance. These are the things that I have to do today. And my program of recovery, or the place I'm at in my life right now, and I've heard this the last couple of speakers too, is not an easy one. I'm not going through an easy time. I didn't want to really speak today. I didn't want to really come down here this weekend. I didn't really want to be a participant today because I didn't feel that my place in recovery was up to snuff today, was up to snuff this week, was up to snuff these last couple of months. I felt that I have lost some of the sense of connection. And I said to myself, Cornell, let this meeting, this gathering here, be honest about where you are. Be honest about what you're going through. Be honest about what's happening in your life. And let this meeting help you, guide you back to the center, guide you back into the flow of recovery. So I'm very glad to be here. I'm very glad to have shown up and not just kind of walked away. So I get to hear that there's ideas, attitudes, and emotions. There's relationships first that I have to get right, and all of them have to be for God. My motives, when my motives were driven by self, my motives were always about self-seeking, self-serving, self-centeredness, rooted in self-centered fear. And I just lay this out because it is self-centered fear, the fear of losing something that I have or not getting something that I want, that's going to drive a lot of my behavior. And so my motives when I come into these rooms all are up for question as well. I see that I'm driven by these circumstances and driven by these motives that have nothing to do really with peace between me and another person. The woman who I met earlier, her name was Eve. She's in a bridge, the bridge convention. I thought to myself, I have a whole set of solutions rooted in self that destroy bridges between me and other people. I have a whole set of solutions rooted in the application of the principles of the program that build bridges between me and other people. And that's what I come here for, because I need to build bridges again. I need to be connected again. I need to be known. I need to be seen. I need it to be understood that sometimes things overtake me and overwhelm me and make me want to reach back for those old solutions. And I behave in ways that don't reflect the growth that's really in my life. And I feel bad about myself. And I get self-pitying and self-loathing. And I get guilty. And I don't know what to do. And then all I have to do is come here and say, this is what's going on. This is what's happening with me. This is what I'm going through. And then the peace can be restored. And then the peace can come back to me. And I can be rigorously self-honest. And I can enjoy the benefits of that admission on a daily basis. I can enjoy the benefits of that admission because I'm not perfect. I have a perfect program of recovery that I practice absolutely imperfectly. And I always will. I always hope I do. Because if I don't, I start to think I know something. If I don't, I think I start to have possessions of thought and mind, possessions of recovery, possessions of wisdom. And as soon as I get a hold of these possessions, I think I can do something with them. I think I can use them in a way to get my way, to do the things that I think I need to do in the world. And as soon as I'm convinced that my possessions are useful to me in any way, I start to forget about the program of recovery. I start to not remember why I'm here. And I was nervous today about coming here because the last talk I gave, everybody was laughing a lot, and I was like, I'm not in that place today. I'm not in that space right this second. When I get down to the bones, and I get nervous and I start to perspire, and I think I need to perform. And I'm just going to share it quite openly and honestly with you that that's what happens to me sometimes. I get nervous, I get frightened. And then I go back to those old tapes that run in my mind. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not talented enough. I'm not enough. I'm not doing enough. I'm not saying enough. I'm not giving enough. I'm not performing enough. That hole opens up and that space opens up. And all those thoughts come back into my mind. And I think I've got to do something or say something or be some way in order to be enjoyed and liked and entertaining. And that's been my life, most of my life till I got into recovery. I was always trying to perform. Always trying to be something for somebody. Always trying to be something that I wasn't. Always trying to be some place that I wasn't. Never believing that if I just showed up and explained exactly who I was and where I was and what I was at that moment, that would be okay. That you guys would still like me. That I would still be likable. That I would still like myself. And so it's a very interesting moment for me to speak this openly and this truthfully and this candidly before a group of people with whom I share a fellowship, but many of whom I don't know. It's very interesting for me and very revealing to me of the power of this program, that I can get up here and say that. That I can get up here with a world of confusion inside of me and still speak about a program of recovery, and to know that there are principles I can apply in my life in the day that I'm in today that can help me be sane and sober emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically today, that I can be all right. I didn't have that before. I didn't know what to do with those feelings before. I didn't know what to do with them except to be preoccupied with somebody else, except to be preoccupied with people, places, things, situations, a woman. In reading about humility, I turned to page 311. If you go to this book, Courage, One Day at a Time in Al-Anon, and you can look back in the back and find the index, and on the index it tells you where certain topics are. I opened up to page 311 or 310, and the sentence on the topic of humility, the first sentence is, "Once there was a very nice girl." And I said, that's all I have to read. That is my story of recovery. Once there was a very nice girl, and I followed that girl to the ends of the earth. And I followed that girl in many different forms, from year to year to year, for 25 years, endlessly, ceaselessly, one relationship after another, following her wherever she would go, doing whatever she would want, drinking whatever she drank, snorting whatever cocaine she snorted, trying to take in and ingest as much as she did, no matter who she was or where she wanted to go. Certain that if I did all these things and I drank enough and I did enough drugs and I hung out with her late enough and I didn't sleep enough around her when she was out, that she would somehow love me. Because at the bottom of this, underneath all of this stuff that I'm talking about, underneath all of these attempts and efforts to seek solutions and to seek people who will love me, underneath all of this is my desire, I just want to see how much time I have left, is my desire to be loved. Simple love. To be loved. To feel love inside of me. People say, love yourself. I say, I can't feel that. I don't know how to love myself. But I know with a power greater than myself, I can ask to be shown what unconditional love feels like. Lacking the capacity to know what it feels like to love myself, I've had to go outside myself and to seek through other people, money, property, prestige, to find them and to convince them to love me, to convince them that I was lovable. That compulsion, that need is so deep and so profound and so great that it will cause wreckage, because no human power can relieve this merciless obsession. That's what I hear in these rooms. No human power can relieve this merciless obsession to seek love from things outside of myself so that I'll feel okay. But today, because of the program of recovery, 12 steps in an application, and the principles behind them in my life, I have the capacity to know several things that I didn't know before I came into these rooms. I know I'm a child of God. I know I'm unconditionally loved. I know my sanity and my serenity and my sobriety and my peace and my stability comes from within. I know there are obstacles that have prevented me from being aware of this. I know there is a way to remove those obstacles. And I know that the more I remove those obstacles, the more I become convinced that it is all okay today. And when I don't know that, I get tangled up. When I don't know that, I reach for old solutions. But today I am certain in a way that I've never been certain before. Even if I forget it, even if I don't remember it, even if I need to be reminded of the fact, today I'm certain of it in a way that I've never been certain before, that this power is available to me whenever I reach out to it. But if I invite this power into my life, into all of my affairs, into all of my relationships, into all of my concerns, that this power is transformative and it will bring about possibilities that I could never bring about myself. I know that today, because when I apply these things into my life, things happen that I could never have predicted, that I could never have brought about. I don't know what else to call that except God. I don't know what else to call that except grace. I don't know what else to call that except a power so much greater than myself. I don't know what else to call it. I wouldn't keep coming back here. I wouldn't show up here in a state where I am less than what I consider to be perfect to be before you. I wouldn't keep doing these things if I wasn't having an experience of this power that was palpable and real and transformative, that other people could notice within me, that I can notice when I apply it between me and another person. There are people in my life who bother me today. I know what to do, and it's not to go to them. My sponsor tells me you take the problem to your meeting, you take the solution to your relationship. And I do that now on a daily basis, and things begin to transform. Things aren't the best for me right now, but I'm taking the problem to my recovery and the solution to my relationships. And I know even if things don't work out the way I want them to work out, they're going to work out the way God wants them to work out. They're going to work out the way they're meant to work out. And as long as I know that, no matter what happens, no matter what takes place in my life, no matter where I go or don't go, no matter what praise I receive or don't receive, no matter what love I get or don't get from outside, I know that there is always this continual capacity to have this bubble within me, this streaming fountain within me that I can have access to, that can ground me again, that can help repair the historical conditions that created the disease within me, that can repair it for me, from my mother, from my father, for their generations, because I get to talk about them differently now when I talk about them. I don't get to say that SOB my father. I don't get to talk about his family. I don't get to talk about my mother's family, the SOB my mother's family. Look what they did to me. I don't have to talk about them in that way. And just that simple act of my language changing and the way that I speak about my experience heals, I believe, the wounds that have been around in these families for generations. And I have access to that today, not because of anything that comes from me, but because I was willing to empty me. I was willing to let go and let God. I was willing to remove and continue to work to remove the obstacles of attitudes, ideas, and emotions that prevent me from having access to this power. And I'm willing to believe, and I'm willing to trudge with everyone in these rooms to keep believing, to keep deepening my belief, to keep coming to believe that the application of these powers is the answer to what is wrong with me. I stay in the rooms of recovery, and I go out into the world and I apply the principles the best that I can. And if I do that on a daily basis, I'm going to have a good day. If I do that on a daily basis, I'm going to have a good moment. And if I have a bad moment, I can apply them again, and I can turn that bad moment into a good moment. I love an Al-Anon that we say, you can start your day over at any time. I can start my day over at a 1:06. I can start my day over right now. Right? I can wake up in a bad mood and start it over. And you know, I'll leave this one last thing. My sponsor's 70 years old. I called her up the other day, and I told her about what was wrong with me. And she said, yes, Cornell. Yes, Cornell. And you think you're the only one. Yes, Cornell. I woke up this morning and wondering what was going to happen to me. Wondering where I was going to be. What if my husband dies? And I thought, well, maybe I'll kill myself. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe I just shouldn't be here at all. And I'm not sharing this with you, Cornell, so that you feel bad for me. I'm sharing this with you so you know that no matter how long we've been in these rooms, these things keep happening to us. These thoughts keep coming up. And we need each other, and we need to talk, and we need to share. And I made a phone call, and I made the phone call, and then I felt better. And so I share that because I don't have to be any place. I don't have to show up as anything. I don't have to perform in any way today. I don't have to pretend I'm something that I'm not today. I can just be here, who I am, where I am, as I am, sounding as I am, applying these principles in my life, knowing that I'm going to get tangled up when it comes to working a program of recovery. I'm going to do things that are going to confuse me and other people. And I've got a way now to move past that confusion. I know we have a 10th step because we're all going to backslide. We're all going to fail. We all need to keep taking inventory because this disease that's within me is so powerful that it guarantees I will be confusing to myself and others. I will make mistakes. I will practice imperfectly this perfect program of recovery. But as long as I stay in the rooms of recovery, my life, I cannot explain to you how absolutely different my life is today than it was when I first walked into these rooms. I am unrecognizable to myself and to others. From a place of chaos, stability, intensity, debt, damage, wreckage, hospitalization, institutionalization, to a point of prosperity, stability, happiness, joy, even though I'm going through a difficult time. A breakup that I went through 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I broke up with my girlfriend. And the fact that I can stand here today and go through an experience like that, when in the past it would have led to suicidal despair, suicidal depression, and has in fact in the past led to institutionalization. The fact that I can do that today is a testament to me of the incredible miracle that this program has to repair and to heal the deep wounds within me that in the past have opened up and swallowed me to the point of my own destruction. And I'm so grateful and so thankful and so humbled and feel so blessed to be before people who I hold in high esteem, the few that I've heard, who I hold in high esteem, and whose recovery I value, and who, when I'm in a dark place, can be the light that I follow because they carry the message when I'm unable to, and they can carry it in a way that's brighter than my light might be at this moment. But they point the way towards the common solution that I know is useful for anybody who applies these principles. And I'm just eternally grateful that I could be here today. I'm grateful that I could share my story. I'm grateful that I could talk to you about the things that I've become aware about in the process of recovery. And I'm grateful that I could show up today just as I am. Just as I am. As imperfect and as just as I am. And I thank you for the gift of allowing me to do that.
We hope you've enjoyed this recording. To obtain additional copies, receive a free catalog of AA and Al-Anon talks, or to find out about our tape and CD of the Month Club, call Encore Audio Archives at 1-800-878-1308, or visit our website at www.12steptapes.com.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app, to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.